Good Saturday morning to you, YouTube. This is your buddy Choppadong coming at you with a box checkers video. It seems to be the most efficient way to get this out. I can just produce the graphics and then we can walk through them and talk through them. But of course, as we always do as a coach and contributor inside the DFS Army, we're going to start off today with a look through of how you can find me, how you can follow me, what the DFS Army is all about, and why you should become a member and a VIP if you follow the link and the coupon code in the description of this video and go to dfsarmy.com and put in coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, and get that 10% off discount for the remainder of, well, really for your entire subscription, month to month, grandfathered in. If our prices go up, yours won't change, all that good stuff. But as NFL winds down and NBA starts kicking in, and of course NHL, and in the spring we'll start with baseball and stuff, we've got winners across all levels. We have an optimizer that's doing phenomenal things inside the NBA. I'll show you that here in a minute. It helps with the NFL, it helps with MLB, it helps with PGA, NASCAR, all of the major sports. We have covered with either content or tools or optimizers or all three. So really it's one-stop shop for $40 a month. 10% off knocks it down to like 36, 35, 36 bucks, whatever it is. You'd really be kind of a fool not to give us a try if you're sitting on the fence. I don't mind doing this free content once in a while, but there's only so much depth I can go into. When I coach our VIPs inside the DFS Army, we can go into a lot more depth. We can really dig into your bankroll, to managing contest selection, to getting you, basically you, optimized to becoming the most competitive player you can be. That's what we focus on. That's what we do. And if I can't help you, there's somebody inside the Army that can, and be happy to introduce you to them. That's just what we do. Follow me out on Twitter at Choppadong. And of course, we're trying to grow this followers number. If you follow my videos, it keeps going up because apparently people like what we do and we're picking up followers. The Wishbone starts your weekly process. It's a good research article to get you pointed in the right direction. It has a lot of different links in it also for various tools and tips that the DFS Army offers on that week. So I would encourage you to take a peek into there. You can find it on my timeline. It's always my pinned message. How to deal with variance. This is a quick video that I did showing the ups and downs. It's not a video, I guess it's an article. Quick read anyway, a discussion that I had with a VIP. I decided to throw it out public and how to deal with variance. Every once in a while I do that, put out a timeless strategy piece. Just a quick read, something just to kind of keep your mind right, get your head screwed back on straight. You can find that in the timeline as well. There's a newspaper comes out every once in a while that kind of smashes together all of our recent and some of our older articles. I try to keep it as DFS Army related as I can, but when the search bots pull from military stuff, I mean, if you're into that sort of stuff, then you can get some interesting reads there too. Occasionally it puts some pretty funny articles in there. And Alvarez's free squares, if you don't follow those, you know, you're kind of crazy too, because he puts out a lot of great value plays along with a lot of our other coaches and contributors inside the DFS Army. You can find a lot of the content through my tab. You can also follow a lot of our members through my Twitter handle and get to know us all and grab all the free content we put out there. Hopefully you become a VIP though and you get the inside scoop into the Slack forum, which is where all of the magic happens. If you didn't notice, the other day we had a $6,000 winner in NBA. That's just one of many four-figure winners we've had this year. We've had a few five-figure winners. We've had a couple of six-figure winners. So that's just day in and day out of the Army. Yesterday was a bad day, so let me show you how bad it really was. 18 into 36. This is a couple of days ago. There's some winning, of course, in here. I can't see the numbers on this small screen. $442 winner. There's a lot of winning right there. Looks pretty good for a TJ20 max. 250 in a 10th place finish. We've got some guys, you know, 24 in, 250 out. We've got high rollers and low rollers. I'm a low roller, so when you see, well, I don't think I have mine queued up, but what I do yesterday, I put in 12 and I took out 20, 22, something like that, which that's good for a grind in NBA, but it's nothing to brag about and write home about. What do we got? $400 winners. I don't see the Army helmet, so I don't know which one is ours, unless it's, well, Donfire, the winner. Hello, duh. 400 in. There's the lineup and the score. Got a helmet there anyway. 20 in, 80 out. Not huge, but a nice win. I agree. Money, money, money. 61, 21 in, 61 out. Here's yesterday, or I guess this was posted early this morning. 30 in, 94 out. And like I said, this was a bad day for us last night. 11 in, 48 out. And not a lot of bragging because there wasn't a lot of stuff going on. But I'll walk you through those lineups and show you a little bit of the Slack forums, because that's just where all the magic happens. It's where all of our discussion happens about this player, that player. When this guy's out, what do you do? Is this guy a value this week, or is that guy a value this week? Blah, blah, blah. So that's what Slack does, and that's what our VIPs get, along with all of our VIP-only tools and the optimizer. Let's jump into box checkers and start throwing some of these names around. This is actually a pretty good week for box checkers, honestly, because we have a lot of options finally. I've been waiting for this article to kind of get to a week like this where we can maybe talk about a couple of things. So hopefully you endured the first 5 minutes of that video. You're still with me. And we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about, well, Ben Roethlisberger is going to be a hot name. Now, is he playing better? Sure. Is he, in an okay spot? I guess. But he's at home, but he's not favored. So that's a knock against him. He's not scheduled to score a ton of points. Scheduled to score some, but not a ton. That's the 24 and 26. His QBR and his production premium, his efficiency metrics are not there. And if you remember me talking about quarterbacks, they're the only position where efficiency matters more than volume. Most places we want targets, or we want touches, or we want red zone work, or some of that stuff. Quarterbacks, we don't want them just to chuck the ball 70 times. That does help, but only if he's an efficient quarterback also. Because I might be able to get more points out of a Carson Wentz who throws the ball 30 times than I am out of a Drew Bledsoe who's just chucking it like crazy 80 times a game and throws 4 picks as a result of it. So really and truly, efficiency in the quarterback position matters. And Roethlisberger just isn't bringing it. And for this salary, I don't know, man. I mean, he's might be playable in some tournament type scenarios if you're stacking him with Antonio Brown, or Juju or Bryant or somebody like that that's also supposed to have a good game. Pardon me while I yawn. I guess I need more coffee. Tom Brady is in a better spot, obviously. He's not at home, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, checks 5 of the 7 boxes. That's not so bad. Russell Wilson's at home and favored, so I would lean on Russell Wilson. Scheduled to score over 24 points, and he's an efficient quarterback. And for this price range, he's right there with the $8,000 quarterbacks. If I drop down to these others and compare Aaron Rodgers, coming off injury and not checking the boxes, he's not home, he's not favored. Drew Brees, this is where box checkers can be misleading. We know that even though Drew is a pretty efficient quarterback, they're scheduled to score a ton of points this week. I don't know how much they're going to need him. Generally, you're not afraid of a passing type offense that is scheduled to score a ton of points, even if they have a huge spread. And I think their spread is 15 points or something in New Orleans. That usually shouldn't scare you, because they got to get that lead somehow. But in this case, we know that this year New Orleans is a run-first team. So this does not really lend itself to Drew Brees' wheelhouse per se this year. It would have in years past, but that's where you've got to be able to filter through some of the noise. Box checkers really point you in the right direction, but you still got to decipher some of the noise. So for 8,400, I would take Russell Wilson in a heartbeat. Nick Foles didn't check as many boxes as I thought he would, because he's not at home, and his implied total took a hit, and we don't know how efficient he is. We know he used to be with Philadelphia. We don't know if he still is. He wasn't very efficient with the Rams. So who really knows? Jury's out. I like the guy at 6,000. I really think that he's going to get you, 15 to 20 points and be fine. But this graphic here throws up a little caution flag. Blake Bortles is another interesting one. He's been playing better lately. He's scoring the points. He's just not efficient. It's his thing. So in a Leonard Fournette type game, you may or may not lean on Bortles. So quarterback-wise, pretty much Russell Wilson. I didn't talk about Cam, I guess, but at 8,000, I guess Cam's in play. Looking at this graphic, and Drew Brees is a little bit of a trap, it feels like. So you could probably play Brady if you really want to pay up for it, and you've got the value this week to do it. So you could play Brady, you could play Russell Wilson, you could play Cam. I would play Nick Foles. I would put him on this list, and out of this selected list of your chalky quarterbacks this week, these are the guys that should be the most popular. Maybe not so much these guys down in here, but these guys for sure. Those are probably the names that I would stick to. Moving on to running back, Le'Veon Bell should be in a smash spot. Their issue is they're not favored, but it's Le'Veon Bell. He's going to get the volume. He's going to get the work. He's not in the greatest matchup, but it's Le'Veon Bell. 9,400, still worth it in my opinion. Kenyon Drake hits the list next. He's going to be very chalky this week, but here's why. He may not be home, he may not be favored, and we're talking about Buffalo, and that game is offline, so who knows? Maybe Miami should be favored. But we know he's getting the touches. We know he's getting the workload at 6,500. That price is very, very attractive. I can take some of the empty spots in this graphic for that price. That price is very attractive. Your 1-2 punch of Bell and Drake is really where I'm going a ton this week. Is Alex Collins playable? I guess, but he's not getting a lot of the volume. At least it's not a sure thing. Not getting third down work. They're giving a lot of that crap to Buck Allen. Not in a great matchup, and he's not at home. So for the 6,600, drop $100. Take Kenyon Drake. For Todd Gurley, not at home, not favored. Should get a heavy dose of him this week up in Seattle. But it's not a particularly great matchup. But at the same time, he is all the running game in LA. So, for 8,400, he's $1,000 off of Le'Veon Bell. I think Le'Veon Bell's safer. He's a little bit cheaper than Alvin Kamara. I don't think this fits an Alvin Kamara profile with some of the passing work, but I think in that two-headed monster, they're going to get their points somehow. So Kamara could have a big day. Gurley might be a little bit safer there. So, maybe you run with him and then Drake. Or maybe you use him to upgrade, to Tom Brady. Something like that. Those are some options for you. P. Ryan is really checking a lot of boxes. Home favored, getting the touches, getting the red zone work, doesn't get third down work, and he's in a good matchup. At 6,700, he competes with Drake. I think Drake is a little bit more matchup proof, but it shows here that P. Ryan's in a damn good spot too. As far as Shady, he's at home. They may not be favored, but he gets all the love. I know he occasionally gets vultured by Tolbert. I don't know that situation intimately, but I don't think it's something that really worries us all that much. At 8,500, though, he might be a little harder to trust, but Box Checkers says we should trust him. So maybe we come down to who do we trust more, Gurley or McCoy? And because he's at home, maybe we tip the scales to McCoy. Because he's in a better matchup, maybe we tip the scales to McCoy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pardon me while my wife rang in there and asked me a question from the grocery store. At any rate, where were we with McCoy and Gurley? It 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes to Gurley's 3. So arguably, LaShawn McCoy is the better back this week at the same price. So that's where Box Checkers can separate you, because a lot of people will probably lean Gurley over McCoy, and you might even feel like McCoy's chasing points or whatnot. And that's what Box Checkers is designed to do, is tell you that McCoy is actually in the better spot. Christian McCaffrey checks 3 boxes, not in a great spot. Jay Ajayi, can't trust him. He's going to be popular this week, but can't trust him. They're in a big old committee in Philly. Burkhead over Deion Lewis, perhaps, but again, it's Bill Belichick. We don't trust the running backs there. Kerwin Williams, don't know. 5,500 is attractive. He should be getting some touches and some volume, but he's not at home. He's not favored. Carlos Hyde, however, is loading up all the boxes across the board this week for $7,000. He wouldn't be a bad play. Another box checker tip to you, Carlos Hyde. Should be a Latavius Murray type game. At 6,200, pretty cheap. I don't know if I trust it, but Box Checkers is saying it's in a pretty good spot. Mike Davis also in a pretty good spot, although I think you have to check the injury report on that one. And Mark Ingram is really funny because at 8,300 versus 9,100, it's an $800 savings off of Kamara, and Ingram should be in the better game script spot, but we know that that's a committee, and we know it could go either way. If Kamara busts a couple of big touchdown runs, which he's more than capable of doing, then they hand it to Ingram to grind out the clock, and that's great for Ingram's touches, but if Ingram doesn't punch a couple in, then Kamara's going to outscore him. So pretty interesting there, too. I would favor Ingram, but I wouldn't favor him over Shady or maybe Todd Gurley in this case. If I would start with Le'Veon Bell. I like Kenyon Drake a lot. That's probably where I stop. If I really wanted to get cute, mix things up, make a few lineups, I might take Le'Veon Bell out for that price. Might bring in a Gurley or a McCoy or even an Ingram and then roll from there. To get a little bit off of a Kenyon Drake, I may jump up to a Carlos Hyde. I don't think I'm going to take a gamble on any of these other guys, though, really. P. Ryan feels like maybe, but I don't know. So that's just a rough breakdown of your running backs, kind of what you need to be thinking along the way. Look at all these receivers we have to pick from this week. tons. A lot of them getting the targets, the red zone work. A lot of them getting the workload. The workload's interesting. And then the little ancillary details of pricing mismatches. A few good matchups, but a ton of these guys are playable just on volume alone. And you look at these prices, and you should be able to decipher between some of the better ones. Of course, Antonio Brown. Devin Funchess is cheap. He's going to be chalky, but he's cheap. Michael Thomas, if you believe in Drew Brees, he's a cash viable guy, but he hasn't really exercised his ceiling much because they've been running so much. Josh Gordon's attractive. Your pivot off of Josh Gordon, because he's getting people chasing points, is probably Funchess, even though Funchess appears to be chalky. And another thing you could do, you could forego Brown and just drop down here and go 73 and 7,500, take both Gordon and Funchess. Getting the workload and all of that kind of stuff, we don't really follow the home favorite type stuff with wide receivers as much because they're a little bit more independent of home and road and point spread. We throw to them to get a lead, and we throw to them when we're behind and playing catch up. So really, you're just looking for the volume, a little bit of efficiency, but you're looking for them to be the primary threat in an offense, and that's what the workload stat tells you. D.D. Westbrook all of a sudden getting some targets, and he's cheap, he's playable. Goodwin, maybe not so much this week. I don't know if he gets red zone work or not. Those were season numbers I was looking at. His target share is not quite up to par. Then you've got an article dropped from DFSArmy.com. That's what that dinging was. And their implied points aren't that attractive. So I would maybe stay away from Goodwin this week. I'm not quite sure how that would work out. Adams and Nelson depends on Aaron Rodgers. If Hundley's in, he seems to prefer Adams. If Aaron Rodgers is in, Jordy Nelson becomes famous again. Brandon Cooks, even though New England seems to be in a shootout in a good spot, don't know that we can trust Cooks because they spread the ball around enough. He's not really getting the target share or the targets. So it's kind of a gamble, which would make him a GPP stack with Tom Brady perhaps, but probably not for cash games. Doug Baldwin's a little bit in that same boat. He can really have some stinkers on you. He's getting the workload, but he's not really putting up the points, the fantasy points. Jarvis Landry's generally pretty safe. I would prefer him over any of these $7,000 players, except for an outside shot at Jordy Nelson if Aaron Rodgers plays. Landry, Funchess, Gordon, it's a pretty good core. Landry, Funchess for sure. Down here, we're getting the targets with Jamison Crowder. We're not getting the production. Chris Hogan is a real big if. Juju Schuster's another big gamble. Marquise Lee is getting the percentage of workload, so he's probably getting the targets, but that was earlier in the season that number comes from. Thielen's kind of a monster, but he doesn't have any of the little secondary categories that we look for, and he's not in a phenomenal matchup. But I do like Thielen, so for 7,600, so you don't really need to get out of the mid-sevens for your wide receivers this week, and you might be able to take all three. Fitzgerald's in a good spot, so there's Fitzgerald, Thielen, Landry, Baldwin if you want to get real cute, Jordy if you want to get cute with Aaron Rodgers, and Funchess, and maybe some Josh Gordon. And those are all in the mid-sevens. You don't need to go up to Michael Thomas this week. You don't really need to go anywhere into that 8,000 range. You don't even need DeAndre Hopkins, although look at the boxes he's checking. A.J. Green's in the mid to high sevens. He's checking some boxes. I haven't played a lot of A.J. Green this week, so I haven't followed him too terribly closely. But DeAndre Hopkins, that's interesting. And he's going to be a little bit lower owned. Might be a little bit chalky, but he's going to be on the lower end of that spectrum because of these dudes up here. So I might pay up for DeAndre Hopkins if I've got an extra $500 at the end of my build. That's intriguing. Really is. Tight ends, all target monsters, for the most part, all in the red zone. Of course, it's what a tight end does. But the teams that are at home favored and scheduled to score the points. Greg Olsen, if you trust him, boy, Box Checkers likes him. And Jimmy Graham I trust more than Greg Olsen, even though it's a $1,000 difference. I like Ben Watson this week facing Cleveland. Box Checkers doesn't really like him as much. I do. And the one that's not on this list that I like is Mercedes Lewis. Mercedes Lewis is cheap as hell. He's not necessarily getting the targets. He's only getting 5 or 6 targets, maybe. But he gets red zone work. They're scheduled to score over 24 points. He's home. He's favored. And they're in a weaker matchup. So that's a lot of boxes to check on such a cheap tight end. I might punt with him. I don't know that I'm going all the way up to Gronk at 8,500. I'm not paying 8,000 for a wide receiver. Why would I do it for a tight end? I'm a little surprised that a Travis Kelce's not on this list. But, you know, anyway, that's your tight ends in a nutshell. Pretty quick to break down tight ends with the Box Checkers article. Running through, I don't need any edit options, sorry. Running through defenses, a lot of them in play again. This one in Miami depends on Nathan Peterman in Buffalo. If he starts, Miami becomes very playable despite all of this. The Giants, I don't really know why. I guess they're banking on Nick Foles. Nick Foles was always kind of a game manager and not really turnover prone, so I don't know why he's supposed to be popular. The rest of them are kind of in play. Look at this. So why would you go anywhere but New Orleans, Jacksonville, or Baltimore? I mean, you can put Minnesota in there, but why would you go anywhere other than the ones that are checking all the boxes and are in facing offenses that are turnover prone? So, you know, the Saints, just lock them in. They're the cheapest of all of these box checkers. You might throw Miami in there if you think Nathan Peterman is going to chuck 5 or 6 interceptions again. But other than that, I would just lock and load New Orleans and be done with it. Maybe offset a little bit with Baltimore. I love Jacksonville, but they're just too expensive comparatively. I can do more with that money elsewhere. And I've got the same quality of matchups with cheaper guys. Kickers, look at this. A lot of kickers this week. We're looking for home favored scheduled to score over 24 points. So Lutz, Lambeau, Gano. You know, preferably in a good matchup, so that would be Lambeau. So we'd lean Lambeau. So 5,200 versus 4,700. I'd take the 4,700 versus 4,700. This one's a tiebreaker. I would take the matchup. Boom, done. Lambeau's my kicker. It's just that simple, guys. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. So going back through there again, just to show you what's up, I mean, there's your box checkers article for the week. I didn't need a lot of explanation. You can go through here and scroll back through the graphics and hopefully make yourself a good lineup using most of these players. Hopefully it benefits you in some way, shape, or form. Box checkers has been really good so far this year. And again, if you like this content, click like on the video, click subscribe, get the content as I put it out. Become a member in the DFS Army by using coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P. Follow me on Twitter, and we will see you when we see you.